Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hopefully, you guys are having a great Monday. Got some Stanley Cup playoff news to discuss, so make sure that you stay tuned in to this episode to the end. As always, do me a favor, hit that like, subscribe button. If you're watching the podcast on YouTube, make sure that you're following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are with you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11:30 a.m. to noon Central Time, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So you want to make sure that you are staying up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Before we go ahead and get started to the NHL news for today, kind of getting off topic for the start of this episode because I want to talk about that WWE Backlash match between John Cena and Randy Orton. And man, if you did not watch it, it was a great match. I mean, John Cena just had to do what he did, and that was a low blow to Randy Orton, and he hit him in the head with the championship and then won the match. But other than that, I felt like it was a good match. I mean, seeing John Cena and Randy Orton, two GOATs of WWE, squaring off for one final time against each other, it was an absolute cinema from start to finish. There was attitude adjustments from John Cena, and then there was RKOs from Randy Orton. In fact, he had an RKO party in his hometown of St. Louis, which was where the Backlash events took place. So it was John Cena battling against the St. Louis-born Randy Orton, the Apex Predator, the Viper. Again, it's weird. It is so weird seeing John Cena as a heel and Randy Orton as a face, because usually it's the other way around. It's Randy Orton that's the heel and John Cena as the face. And both characters, like John Cena plays a face very well, mostly because he's been a face for almost forever until, at Elimination Chamber where he turned heel. And then Randy Orton, like, he's good at his character. Like, he is born to be a heel. And usually, for those who don't know wrestling, face is usually the good guy, heel is the bad guy. That's how it works in wrestling. But Randy Orton is a born heel, so I still find it weird to see him as a face. And these two have had a lot of great matches over their careers. Like, they had one at, Hell in a Cell, Unforgiven, Breaking Point, the I Quit match, the Iron Man 60-minute match. I mean, these two GOATs put on absolute shows from start to finish. And there is a WWE episode of the documentary that tells about the rivalry of John Cena and Randy Orton. It's on AEE, so you guys can watch that if you get a chance. If you're into wrestling, I'm not a huge wrestling fan. I just love watching WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble. So I'm a wrestling fan just a little bit, but I'm not like that much into wrestling. But, just seeing John Cena and Randy Orton square off for the final time. Wanted Randy Orton to win his 15th title, but I kind of knew John Cena was going to win because we see what John Cena is usually doing now. Like, the way that John Cena won at Backlash, that would not be the way that the old John Cena would have won the title. The old John Cena would have won the title fair and square. Like, he wouldn't use any cheap shots or like do anything, that's not John Cena. So obviously different John Cena. Again, it's weird seeing John Cena as a heel and Randy Orton as a face. Still feels weird to me, and I'm pretty sure it feels weird to everybody else. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. The John Cena and Randy Orton match. Like I said, absolute show start to finish. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the NHL news for today. We got the Dallas Stars and Winnipeg Jets Game 3 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And the Dallas Stars, they held off the Jets for a 5-2 win in Game 3. And they lead this best-of-7 series 2-1. And Mikko Rantanen continues his impressive playoff run, recording a goal and 2 assists in this game for a 3-point night. And he now has 18 points in 9-10 playoff games this postseason. 9 goals, 9 assists for 18 points in 9-10 games this postseason. So he's putting on an absolute show in this playoffs. And I said this off air. If the Dallas Stars end up winning the Stanley Cup, Mikko Rantanen is your Conn Smythe Trophy winner. I'm not saying that they will win the Stanley Cup. I'm saying if, and that is a strong if they win the Stanley Cup, Mikko Rantanen will be your Conn Smythe Trophy winner. If he continues this style play. If he continues his pace and his style play, what he's doing now, then he's going to be a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. Alexander Petrovic had the go-ahead goal early in the third period. Of course, this goal ended up being a long review, trying to see if there was distinct kicking motion in the net, which, to be honest, I was unsure if this was distinct kicking motion because, of course, this game was broadcast on TBS, and they were showing an angle of where the puck went off of Petrovic's skate and into the net, but it wasn't a distinct kicking motion. He didn't kick the puck into the net. It was just like a bounce off his skate and into the net. There was no kicking motion on the play, so it ended up being a good goal, but again, a long review in that. And to be honest, that is one of the longest reviews, or I should say the longest review of a goal that I have ever seen. I never ever in all my years of watching hockey have ever seen a review that long. That one had to be the and only longest review of a goal I ever seen. Rope Hintz, Tomas Harley, and Wyatt Johnson also scored for Dallas. Sam Steele, Mikhail Granlund had 2 assists each, so the Stars' offensive depth was all over this game, despite Tomas Harley being a defenseman and all, but he is stepping in that key role for the Stars defenseman in absence of Miro Heiskanen. And Jake Oettinger made 23 saves in the win for Dallas. And for the Winnipeg Jets, Kyle Connor and Nino Niederreiter scored for Winnipeg. Of course, each goal from them trying to tie the game up. Of course, Kyle Connor scored the first goal for the Jets, tying the game up at 1 in the first period. And then in the second period, Nino Niederreiter tied the game up for Winnipeg, and then it was all Dallas after that. And Connor Hellebuck made 21 saves in the loss. And the Jets' road struggles continue as they are now 0 for 4 on the road during the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, they lost all 3 of their road games in St. Louis in round 1. They lose game 3 in round number 2 against the Dallas Stars. So they are still winless on the road in these Stanley Cup playoffs. But we'll see if they can get a road win in Game 4 to even up the series at 2 games apiece. And Connor Hellebuck, we know his road struggles, being pulled in all 3 games on the road in the first round against the St. Louis Blues. He wasn't pulled in this game against Dallas, surprisingly, but he's struggling on the road in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He has an 0-4 record with a 6.65 goals against average on the road in away games. As you count all 3 games in St. Louis, and if you count this game 3, it has been an absolute nightmare for Connor Hellebuck on the road. But Game 4 is in Dallas Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That game will air on ESPN for you guys to watch. But moving on to the Florida Panthers and Toronto Maple Leafs in their Game 4. So Sergei Bobrovsky, he made 22 saves in the Panthers' 2-0 shutout win over the Maple Leafs. This is Sergei Bobrovsky's second shutout of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of course, his first shutout of the Stanley Cup playoffs being in Game 2 of the Panthers' first round series against their division and arch rivals, the Tampa Bay Lightning. And this is Sergei Bobrovsky's 6th career playoff shutout. I think all of his playoff shutouts being with the Florida Panthers. And this series is tied up at 2 games apiece, heading back to Toronto for Game 5 on Wednesday. Carter Verhaeghe and Sam Bennett scoring both the goals for the Florida Panthers. Of course, Carter Verhaeghe's goal coming on a power play with 4 minutes and 15 seconds remaining in the first period, assisted by Matthew Tkachuk, which that was a nice cross-ice pass for Matthew Tkachuk to set up the backdoor feed for Carter Verhaeghe, and he taps it in. It's 1-0 Panthers on the power play. And then in the third period, Sam Bennett will add the insurance goal for Florida with 7:50 left to go. Of course, he capitalized on a neutral zone turnover in a partial 2-on-1 rush up the ice and had Joseph Wall down and out, and he cut towards the slot, and he shot into a wide open net. Of course, second period, obviously no goals were being scored, so Sam Bennett had the insurance goal in the third period. And Florida special teams came into play in this one. That was key for the win for Florida, because, of course, their power play was effective, and their penalty kill was outstanding, killing off all the Toronto Maple Leafs power play chances. And for Joseph Wall, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, made 35 saves, keeping Toronto in this game despite them being outshot 37-22. And Austin Matthews, he still does not have a goal in this series. Of course, his last goal was in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs against the Ottawa Senators. He has yet to score in this series. Of course, he has 2 goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and like I said, they both were scored in the first round against the Ottawa Senators. We need to see a goal from Austin Matthews against the defending Stanley Cup champions. And I'm surprised he hasn't scored a lot of goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs, considering the goal scorer that he is. And he has not lit the lamp a lot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. That is usually odd to see from Austin Matthews. But Game 5 will be at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto on Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That game will air on ESPN for you guys to watch. Now we're going to preview Game 4 of the Carolina Hurricanes and Washington Capitals. So, of course, Game 4 is in Raleigh, North Carolina at the Lenovo Center. Puck drops at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. That game will air on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max. Hurricanes lead this best-of-7 series 2-1 after a 4-0 shutout win in Game 3. Of course, Jack Roslovic had a goal and assist for 2-point night. Jackson Blake, Andrei Sneshnikov, and Eric Robson also scored in the Game 3 win. And Freddie Anderson made 21 saves in net for the Hurricanes. Of course, this was Freddie Anderson's 4th career playoff shutout and first shutout in the playoffs in 5 years. So it's kind of weird to see that Freddie Anderson has had his last playoff shutout was 5 years ago. Again, kind of weird to see. But anyway, Hurricanes have a lot of scoring depth on this team. They have showcased balanced scoring with 7 different players contributing goals in this series and 13 players scoring in the playoffs overall. And for the Capitals, man, do they continue to struggle against Carolina. In the first 2 games, Games 1 and Game 2, they were outshot by Carolina. Carolina dominated majority of those first 2 games, and the Capitals just had to keep blocking shots and, still staying in this game, keeping this uncontested, tight series. And Game 3, Hurricanes would again dominate the Capitals, obviously, with, the 4-0 shutout win in Game 3. And also, Ovechkin has not scored a goal in this series. So, going to need to see the Great 8, the greatest goal scorer of all time, step up in this series for the Washington Capitals. And John Carlson, he has had a lot of defensive struggles throughout the series. He was on the ice for all 4 goals against Carolina in Game 3. So, we need to see some improvement from John Carlson heading into Game 4. And take a look at the best odds at winning this game. According to FanDuel, Carolina enters Game 4 as the favorite to win this game with odds at negative 235. And Washington is the underdog at plus 190. So I would kind of predict Carolina to win Game 4, so I don't blame FanDuel for, making Carolina having the best odds at winning Game 4. That was actually going to be my prediction to go from there too. Because like I said before, when it comes to playing in the playoffs at home for Carolina, they play really good at home. They have a strong performance at home during the Stanley Cup playoffs than they do on the road. And that's for all the Stanley Cup playoff games that I have seen the past few years that Carolina has been in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It seems like when they play at home in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they put on a better performance than they do on the road. So that's from my perspective. I can't speak for anybody else, but from my perspective, I can see I see Carolina dominating at home than they do on the road. So I don't, technically blame FanDuel for putting them as the favorites. But keys to Game 4 between the Carolina Hurricanes and Washington Capitals. For the Carolina Hurricanes, take a 3-1 series lead. We need to see them maintain defensive discipline. So they need to continue to limit the Capitals' score chances in this game and maintaining control of this game just like they did in the first 3 games of this series. And number 2, sustain offensive depth. Keep the offensive depth going. We want to see more guys step up. We don't want to see just players like, Sebastian Aho, Jordan Stahl, and the rest of those guys step up. We need to see some more secondary scoring from this Hurricanes group. Like I said before, they play great at home than they do on the road when it comes to playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, this tough arena to play in overall for the Capitals and for any other NHL team. When Noble Center, the Caniacs down there, they're going to bring it every game, especially come playoff time. So that will be a tough arena to play at, and obviously we're going to need to see a better performance from the Capitals in Game 4 if they do want to even up this series at 2 games apiece and see some scoring from Alex Ovechkin, because he has not had a goal in this series. I don't know if he has a point in this series, but we need to see the Great 8 step up in this series if the Capitals want to have a chance to win this series against the Carolina Hurricanes. We're going to need to see more forechecking, more sustained pressure on the Hurricanes from the Washington Capitals if they want to somehow even up the series at 2 games apiece. But let me know you guys' thoughts. What do you think the Capitals need to do to win Game 4? What do you think the Hurricanes need to do to take the 3-1 series lead heading back to Washington? But now we're going to preview another Game 4 in the VGK Vegas Golden Knights against the Edmonton Oilers. So, of course, this will be at Rogers Place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Puck drops at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. This will air on TNT, True TV, and HBO Max. And the Oilers lead this best-of-7 series 2-1 after the Golden Knights' 4-3 win in Game 3, which could have easily been a 3-0 series lead for the Edmonton Oilers in this game. But thanks to Reilly Smith's game-winning goal with just 0.4 seconds left in regulation, the Golden Knights walked away with the 4-3 win. No overtime was needed because it seemed like this game was going to go into overtime, but Reilly Smith had other plans and, like I said, scored the game-winning goal with 0.4 seconds left remaining in regulation to give them a 4-3 win and taking Game 3 on the road after losing the first 2 games at home in this series. And Reilly Smith actually had 2 goals in this game. Of course, the other goal coming in I want to say it was the first. Was it the first period? I don't think it was the second, but anyway, he had 2 goals in this game. Nick Roy and William Karlsson had the other goals for Vegas. I cannot believe that Nick Roy did not get a suspension on that cross-check on Trent Frederick in Game 2. That should have been at least a 3-game suspension right there for Nicholas Roy, but he didn't get the suspension, and I was so mad at that. He did have a hearing. He was fined. He was fined for the cross-check, but I didn't want him to be fined. I wanted him to get suspended at least 3 games because obviously that was a dirty cross-check to Trent Frederick. I have no idea why he did that, but yeah, I was still shocked that he played in this game. And Aiden Hill, he made 17 saves in net for the Golden Knights to get the win. And Vegas captain Mark Stone, Game 4 obviously for him is uncertain as he left the first period in Game 3 due to a upper body injury, and he is listed as day-to-day. We don't know if he'll be playing for Game 4. We'll just have to see what head coach Bruce Cassidy says about that after I put out this episode, because as of right now, as I'm recording this episode, I don't know if Mark Stone will be good to go in Game 4. I don't think he will be, but we'll just have to see what Bruce Cassidy says about that. For the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they continue to be the driving force for the Oilers offense. and each of them contributing significantly throughout the series. Of course, Connor McDavid in the Stanley Cup playoffs, he has 16 points in 9 games played, 3 goals, 13 assists for 16 points in 9 playoff games played. He's second in the NHL in playoff points. Of course, the Moose, Mikko Rantanen, is first with 18 points, 9 goals, 9 assists for 18 points in 10, I think it was 10 Stanley Cup playoff games played. And Leon Draisaitl, he has 15 points in 9 Stanley Cup playoff games played, 5 goals, 10 assists for 15 points in 9 Stanley Cup playoff games played. He's tied with William Nylander for third in playoff points with 15. And the Golden Knights, they were resilient in Game 3. I mean, they didn't back down. This was a comeback win for the VGK Vegas Golden Knights after losing the first 2 games at home. So that was a big win for them heading to Game 3, because as you go down 3-0 in the series, it's basically, in this case, game over for the Golden Knights. And the Oilers move on to the Western Conference Finals. But the Golden Knights still in this series. And according to FanDuel, the Oilers are the slight favorites to win Game 4. But I can see Vegas. I kind of disagree with that. I think Vegas could somehow, as I bump my door, I think Vegas could somehow win Game 4 on the road against the Oilers. Of course, obviously you got Stuart Skinner starting in net for the Oilers, and we all know how he struggled throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. His struggles continued in Game 3. Of course, Calvin Pickard is still day-to-day with an injury, so he didn't play Game 3. He's not going to be playing Game 4, but we'll just have to see how everything goes in Game 4. If the Stuart Skinner can somehow hold the fort down the net for the Oilers to take a commanding 3-1 series lead heading back to Las Vegas for Game 5. But if he doesn't hold down the fort, like I said, I can easily see Vegas winning this game because of Stuart Skinner's struggles in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like I said, we'll just have to see how everything will go from there. Let me know, you guys, stars, who do you think takes Game 4? Do you think it will be the Golden Knights taking Game 4 to even up the series at 2 games apiece? Or will it be the Oilers taking Game 4 and taking the 3-1 series lead heading back to Las Vegas for Game 5? All right, Stanley Cup playoff games on the slate. There's only 2 Stanley Cup playoff games on the slate for today. It's a doubleheader on TNT. We got Game 4 of the Washington Capitals and Carolina Hurricanes coming on at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time, followed by Game 4 of the VGK Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton Oilers coming on at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Like I said, both of these games will be on TNT. They'll also stream on True TV and HBO Max for you guys to watch. That's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. Really do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Make sure that you're following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Well, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. God first as always. Be blessed. I'll see you guys Wednesday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Take care.